Coming up on Arirang News. In Gaza, civilians are suffering in the crossfire as Israeli jets continue to pummel the strip in retaliation for the deadly Hamas attack. The humanitarian crisis deepens as Israel suspends electricity, fuel, food, and water supplies in the region. South Korea's military confronts a threat from the north that's different in force compared to that of Hamas. This in remarks made by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, saying that Seoul remains fully ready to deter any provocations immediately and strongly till the end. South Korea's national debt and the fiscal deficit as of August have already outpaced what the government had forecast for the whole year, mainly due to a drop in tax revenue. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin in the Middle East with an intensifying conflict between Israel and Hamas. Israel continues to hammer Gaza with airstrikes, destroying hospitals, schools, and residential areas in retaliation for the devastating Hamas attack. The humanitarian crisis is worsening as electricity, fuel, food, and water supplies into the region are cut off. All this amid a possible land operation in Gaza. Baeunji has our top story.
Just 2 days after Israel ordered a complete blockade of Gaza, closing off access to electricity, food, and water, Gaza has now been left without electricity, as its only power plant has shut down after running out of fuel. The head of the Gaza Power Authority says that people are using generators for electricity, but even the fuel needed for them is running out. Hospitals have also been affected, with a large number of patients currently relying on electricity-powered oxygen generators to breathe. With thousands of Palestinians displaced and in need of medical care in the area, hospitals are flooded with the wounded, many of them children. A plastic and reconstructive surgeon based in Gaza said on Wednesday local time that the hospital is already beyond capacity, but said he will stay in the region as long as it takes. Speaking via video call as explosions rang out in the background, he said hospital supplies are low and electricity is running out.
My feeling is that the Palestinian health system has the rest of the week before it collapses, not just because of the diesel. All supplies are running short.
Meanwhile, the Israeli military says it's preparing for a ground operation in Gaza, but added that the political leadership has not yet decided on one. This comes as the country has called up some 360,000 army reservists and has threatened to destroy Hamas with all power, following the militant group's deadly attack over the weekend. While pledging to give more military assistance to Israel, U.S. President Joe Biden warned the nation to follow the rules of war.
And there are rules of war. And I believe Israel is doing everything in its power to pull the country together, stay on the same page, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure yours will succeed.
As Israel's ground operation appears to be imminent, there are growing fears that this could risk the lives of more civilians. Baeunji, Arirang News.
Amid the deepening humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip, the U.S. is looking to set up a safe passage for civilians to flee. While the Biden administration is actively discussing this with its Israeli and Egyptian counterparts, it is also pushing for additional funding for Israel along with Ukraine. Lee Si-hoo reports.
The White House is having active discussions with Israel and Egypt to find a way for some civilians to leave Gaza through a potential corridor.
Now, I know many of you have been asking about or expressing some interest in the idea of safe passage in Gaza for civilians. Let me just say right up front, we're actively discussing this with our Israeli and our Egyptian counterparts.
The U.S. continues to support safe passage, Kirby highlighted during the White House briefing.
We support safe passage for civilians. The civilians are not to blame for what Hamas has done. They didn't do anything wrong. I don't have an announcement to make today. I can't tell you a specific route or a corridor. I just want to make it clear that we are actively working on this with our Egyptian and our Israeli counterparts.
The White House is also pushing for additional funding for Israel along with Ukraine and has been speaking with members of Congress.
And it's critical, again, that we believe Congress sends a clear message to Putin, sends a clear message to the Israeli people that the United States continues to have their back.
Kirby said the U.S. can support both countries for now in the immediate term with existing authorities and appropriations. Meanwhile, NBC reported on Wednesday that the Biden administration is preparing a supplemental funding request to submit to Congress that combines money for Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, and U.S. border security. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
And on the economic front, the Israeli-Hamas conflict is adding more concerns about the global economy, especially in terms of high energy prices and inflation. While some say there's no immediate impact, others are concerned about the situation long term. Our Park Gun-woo explains.
Global economic uncertainties are stemming from the recent clash between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. In an interview with Bloomberg TV on Wednesday local time, Hita Gopinath, first deputy managing director of the IMF, said that broader conflict between Israel and Hamas could possibly threaten the global economy through inflation. Based on the IMF's modeling, she added if the conflict gets bigger and oil prices rise 10%, it would also cause inflation to go up about 0.4 of a percentage point 1 year later. But she also noted it's too early to predict exactly how broad the implications would be. Meanwhile, one expert noted how little of impact there has been so far on oil prices.
The oil price, initially it went about 4% right after the incident, but it came down to the pre-conflict level. So the oil price so far is not the issue. So far, I would say that the incident, Hamas incident, has not had a significant effect upon Korea as well as on the global environment.
However, another expert warned about what could happen to the Korean economy if the Israeli-Hamas war continues longer.
If the war continues, global economic uncertainties will rise, leading to a deeper global recession, and this could negatively impact Korea's trading and the country's economy.
The Bank of Korea recently announced that exports are projected to improve in the fourth quarter, but the Israeli-Hamas conflict could now hinder things in that regard. Also, following concerns about energy supply during winter, South Korea's second vice industry minister Kang Kyun-sung on Thursday met with gas company executives to discuss the issue. He told them that the government will cooperate with the gas industry to balance the supply and demand of gas, especially during winter. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
Back in this country, referring to North Korea, Seoul's head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says South Korea faces an enemy with a force different from that of Hamas, noting it's fully prepared for any threats coming from Pyongyang. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
South Korea's military says that it is prepared to respond to North Korean threats, implying that they could be more powerful than those posed to Israel by the Palestinian militant group Hamas. Speaking at a parliamentary audit on Thursday, Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Kim Seung-gyum spoke about the war between Israel and Palestine.
Our military confronts an enemy with a force different from that of Hamas. We are maintaining firm warfare capabilities that can immediately and strongly retaliate any provocation or invasion by the enemy until the end.
The chief evaluated that the invasion by Hamas also implies that if North Korea starts a war in the future, it will do something similar to Hamas. The JCS explained that it would strengthen South Korea's three-axis defense system designed to track, detect, and eliminate an enemy's ballistic missiles and weapons of mass destruction. It also vowed to increase the extended deterrence capabilities of the Seoul-Washington alliance. South Korea is also looking into suspending the September 19th Inter-Korean military agreement as it aims to boost reconnaissance and surveillance assets amid escalating threats from North Korea.
We're put in a situation in which our surveillance range is limited due to the no-fly zone established near the DMZ under the military agreement.
Due to such limitations, South Korea's Defense Minister Shin Won-sik earlier in the week said he would push for the suspension of the pact as quickly as possible. The pact signed by South and North Korea in 2018 calls for halting all hostile acts to reduce tensions. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
North Korea's Kim Jong-un has reportedly exchanged congratulatory messages with Russian President Vladimir Putin to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Pyongyang and Moscow. According to the regime's state-run Korean Central News Agency on Thursday, Kim emphasized that he was, quote, very satisfied with the fact that he recently visited Russia for what he called an open and comprehensive exchange of opinions with Putin. It added that Putin also acknowledged the recent summit in his message to Kim, saying that it confirmed their friendship and cooperation. Also on the occasion of the anniversary, North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister reaffirmed the regime's support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. South Korea and Estonia have agreed to pursue peace and security on the Korean Peninsula and in Ukraine and ramp up exchanges in the field of aviation. According to the presidential office, President Yoon Suk-yeol met with his Estonian counterpart Alark Harris on Thursday in Seoul, where they held a bilateral summit and oversaw the signing of an agreement on aviation. Noting the active cooperation between the two countries in advanced IT fields such as cybersecurity and e-government, Yoon expressed the hope that they'll work together more broadly in research and development and defense. Harris responded, Estonia hopes to work with Korea's world-leading defense industry and digital sector. Both leaders agreed to cooperate on working for peace in Ukraine while expressing concern about military collaboration between Russia and North Korea, as they agreed on greater cooperation for peace and security on the Korean Peninsula. President Yoon, while paying his respects to the fallen soldiers who died in the critical Battle of Jangjin Reservoir during the Korean War, vowed to further strengthen South Korea's trilateral security cooperation with the United States and Japan. According to the top office, Yoon on Thursday attended the 8th memorial event honoring the U.S. 1st Marine Division, which led 30,000 United Nations troops against 120,000 Chinese soldiers marching south in November 1950.
유엔군 약 17,000여 명, 중공군 약 48,000여 명의 사상자를 낸 것만 보아도 그 전투의 치열함을 잘 알 수 있습니다. 영하 40도가 넘는 추위와 험난한 지형, 겹겹이 쌓인 적들의 이 포위망을 돌파한 역사상 가장 성공적인 작전이었습니다.
The president noted that suppressing the Chinese army's large-scale offensive enabled the so-called Hungnam evacuation, freeing some 100,000 civilians in the region. Yoon added that the alliance between Seoul and Washington is now stronger than ever, and that Seoul will respond even more resolutely to North Korea's provocations and nuclear missile threats. While strengthening trilateral security cooperation with Tokyo, Yoon said the South will contribute to freedom, peace, and prosperity around the world. South Korea's national debt and the fiscal deficit as of August have already surpassed what the government had planned for the whole year. The Finance Ministry says the so-called managed fiscal balance, which excludes the social security funds like the national pension, stood at about $49 billion into the red as of August this year. Although it has improved compared to July, it outpaces the deficit forecast for the whole year set by the government by about $6 billion. The ministry attributed this to a drop in tax revenue driven by a fall in income and corporation taxes. Meanwhile, the country's national debt has exceeded the 1 quadrillion won mark, which stood at about $829 billion as of August. With the declining population, regional imbalance is a major concern in Korea. To prevent them from disappearing, cities and towns outside the capital, Seoul, are trying something called loconomy, a combination of two words, local and economy. Our Lee Soo-jin reports.
South Korea's towns and villages outside of Seoul are in danger of dying out. To try to prevent this, some areas are trying to revitalize themselves through loconomy, which involves businesses and products that reflect a region's unique characteristics. An expert said that spurring the local economy by attracting visitors with loconomy can help local businesses keeping the area alive.
It's important to make sure that people living in the area want to stay there. Trying to directly increase the population is unrealistic.
One place that has already been successful in using loconomy to draw visitors is Yangyang-gun County. Originally a small fishing village, it promoted a feature that made it unique: beaches that are ideal for surfing. Its surfing population has been steadily increasing, with nearly 470,000 visitors last year. And the economic impact of its surfing industry was estimated to have almost tripled last year compared to 2019. There are other places like this neighborhood in Incheon. They're highlighting their unique qualities in a bid to vitalize the local economy. Kaehyang was once a bustling port area, but many began leaving the neighborhood in favor of more modern areas. A local group decided to save it from dying out by emphasizing the very characteristic that many saw as a problem: its old-fashionedness, also reflected in the old corner shops scattered across the village.
I believe that once Gaehang's economy improves and the old corner shop owners make money, they'll pass on their businesses to their children, and then the neighborhood will have a lasting history.
So instead of demolishing these shops, their old-fashionedness was promoted through galleries and social media to attract visitors, and this has already proven effective.
People from Seoul also began to place orders as they discovered my shop on one of their visits to Gaehang.
Keeping with the retro trend of the area, he also designed the vintage logo of the local beer, which began selling its own merchandise after it saw a rise in visitors from people who come just to drink Gaehang beer. While the locals are well aware that there is still much work to be done before Gaehang's revival reaches the level of places like Yangyang, both are a testament to how loconomy is creating real economic value. 이수진, Arirang News.
Amid major challenges facing the world such as climate change and economic crises, the first Jeonju Future Cities Forum 2023 kicked off on Thursday in South Korea's Jeonju in Jeollabuk-do province. Under the theme, Drawing the Future in the Era of Grand Transition, Changes and Innovation, over 1,000 participants, including scholars and representatives from around the world, have gathered to address the problems facing global metropolises and explore measures to build stronger and more promising cities. At a roundtable, representatives from cities including Shizuoka and Florence adopted the Jeonju Future Cities Declaration, aiming to bolster cooperation on leading innovation in areas such as economic growth, residents' welfare, and green policies. The event will run through Friday. Efforts to reduce carbon emissions are being taken around the world, and Korea is no exception. And in part of that, a local supermarket franchise has chosen to adopt a new and more sustainable method of cooling its product. Yoon explains.
This is a supermarket franchise that is generally located in areas on the outskirts of major cities. This particular branch is the first to use the latest technology in refrigerators and freezers in their meat section. Normally, commercial cooling equipment uses Freon gas, which can be installed easily at a low cost, but emits large amounts of greenhouse gases detrimental to the Earth's ozone layer. But the latest technology uses a carbon dioxide-based refrigerant that doesn't produce greenhouse gases.
Applying a carbon dioxide-based supercritical cycle to state-of-the-art control systems, refrigeration and freezing is now possible in one integrated system.
The carbon dioxide-based refrigerant has a global warming potential, or GWP index, that is 1/4000th of conventional refrigerants, which makes it relatively free from risks of explosion or combustibility. The installation costs of the new technology refrigerators are higher than ones that use Freon gas, but its energy costs are only 45%, making it much more advantageous.
We've introduced the CO2 system because despite higher initial installation costs compared to the commonly used Freon gas system, operation efficiency is better and we can save energy costs as well as help prevent global warming.
There are doors to the display shelves to reduce energy losses. As saving the Earth from further global warming becomes more urgent and more efforts are being made to move towards carbon neutralization, the use of such equipment that uses natural refrigerants that don't emit greenhouse gases is expected to increase. Yoon, Arirang News.
The twin baby pandas that were born this July in South Korea finally got their names today after a public contest. Our Yoon introduces Ruibao and Huibao.
Everland, the country's largest theme park, has decided to name its twin baby pandas Ruibao, meaning wise treasure, and Huibao, meaning shining treasure. Announced on Thursday, the names were chosen following a public contest, which took place from August 24th to October 6th. A brief media day event was held the same day, where Everland zookeepers introduced the twins in front of the cameras and some invited guests, capturing hearts as they made their entrance. The firstborn, Ruibao, weighed 180 grams at birth, while the younger, Huibao, was just 140 grams. The twins now weigh over 5 kilograms, with the weight being put on in only 100 days.
We had never raised twins before, so we were quite nervous. However, watching them grow has made me happy, and it seems that many people following us on social media have also been very happy.
The twins' parents are Aibao and Robao, and the twins have an elder sister, Fubao, the first giant panda bred naturally in Korea. After the sensational birth of the twins, Everland ran the naming contest in which approximately 20,000 people participated, submitting more than 40,000 names. Out of the 10 finalists, 700,000 participants' votes finalized the 2 names, reflecting the popularity of the panda family. Considering that it is challenging for the mother Aibao to take care of both babies at the same time, the twins had to take turns being fed by Aibao and also being given formula milk. This is currently on a 10-day rotation. However, starting from around 4-month-old, when they start walking steadily, they will both be cared for by their mother.
They have now opened their eyes and are starting to grow their teeth. Once they start walking well, which is expected at around 4 months, they will return to their mother. And if they follow her well enough, they can be introduced to the public.
Coming together on such a meaningful day, my children were very excited, and I also felt very happy today.
Hopefully, the twins will have grown healthy enough to adapt to the external environment and be ready to meet the public next year. Yoon, Arirang News.
Typical autumn weather conditions of wide temperature gaps will prevail again tomorrow. Lows will be starting off at 14 degrees Celsius in Seoul, while highs will be jumping to 22 degrees. A low pressure system will kick in after tomorrow, causing a round of showers this weekend. Meanwhile, some mountainous regions across South Korea have changed their colors to yellow and orange. Yesterday, Deogyu-san Mountain saw its first autumn colors. More mountains will start to change colors around next week. Autumn foliage will reach its peak around the end of October to early November. For the coastlines of Jeju Island and the East Coast, high waves are in the forecast. Waves may overtop nearby roadways, so for those near the area, please be extra careful. Partly cloudy skies will be dominating nationwide. Morning temperatures will be ranging from 11 to 17 degrees nationwide. As for the daily highs, Seoul will be getting up to 22 degrees, Chuncheon 21, Daegu and Gyeongju will be topping out at 23 degrees. On Saturday, nationwide rain is in the forecast, and next week, colder spells are expected with lows plunging to single figures. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that brings an end to tonight's newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the most up-to-date news. Good night.